Hello, and welcome to Cut 2 Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb Hamilton, and I'm here tonight with my co-host, Connor. How are you doing tonight, Connor?
Hello, everyone.
I'm a bit under the weather, and our other co-host, Kyle, has the night off. So it's just Connor and I here running the show tonight. Uh, and we'll be talking about Alfonso Cuarón's Gravity, which has just come out, and we're gonna spend the entire episode just discussing, our thoughts and feelings about this movie. So let's, go ahead and get started. Connor, tell us, what did you think of Gravity?
I had heard a lot of buzz about this film for the past few months, um, but I made sure to not set my expectations too high. So I just went in hoping for a visual treat. I had heard the way this film was shot and the way that they constructed it was, in a sense, groundbreaking. And after walking out of the theater, yeah, it's a cinematic experience that I enjoyed so much, and I think everyone, whether you're a fan of space films or not, you just need to see this if you like being entertained, because from the basis, yeah, it's a nice little story, and the actors do a good job at portraying what is going on. But the great thing about this film is that it's shot in a way that's it just shows us cinema's future in the way that this film shows us what you can do with films and how you can shoot it in a different way. Alfonso, the director, he just did he. I need to take a breath. Alfonso, the director, did something that was so extraordinary in the way that he shot the film with all the personal angles and all the continuous shots, and just the visuals were just breathtaking. I was in the theater with my 3D glasses on, and by the way, I don't see a lot of 3D films because I personally think if you shoot a film and then you post convert it, the 3D just doesn't look that great. I know there's some movies out there that I'm sure have been post converted and the 3D's fine, but you can really tell that this film was shot in 3D just because it looks so amazing. And I can't stop giving props to this film from a technical standpoint, because it just blew my mind the way it was shot. There were scenes with Sandra and the camera was right in front of her face, and it was a tight, personal, close angle. And then the camera just went through the helmet before our very eyes, and we got a POV shot of Sandra's view in the helmet, and you had all the monitor systems on the helmet glass, and little things like that just made it more personal and intimate to the audience. And I thought Sandra Bullock did a great job. It was little things here and there that really connected the audience to the character and rooted for her. And my favorite scene has to be, well, it was a few scenes, were when Sandra would go into one spaceship shuttle to another shuttle, and she would float through all the different corridors, and there'd be objects floating around, and they would pop out at the audience through the screen, and little things like that were really cool. I think my favorite moment was, spoiler alert, I assume, let's assume that if you're viewing this right now, listening to it, you've watched the film, and if not, this is a spoiler. But there's a moment that Sandra's in a shuttle, and a fire happens to erupt inside one of the corridors, and she has to race through the entire shuttle and get to like an escape pod thing. And little things like that were so cool. There were a few moments that dragged on a little bit and were slow, and I wished we had seen more of George Clooney. He's in there a lot, but his voices, we don't always see George in a suit. So the only really complaints I have with the film is that I wanted the pacing to just be a little bit better in a few scenes, and I wanted to see more of George Clooney, who gave a great performance. And I went on IMDb, and I don't know how reliable this is, but apparently Robert Downey Jr. was attached to this role for a while before he dropped it, and then George Clooney picked it up. But anyway, I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fantastic visual experience. And if you want to be entertained and you want to just look at a beautifully constructed film, then I suggest you go see Gravity. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I have to agree. It really is a visually stunning picture. I went in last night, 10 o'clock, because my work schedule this weekend it wouldn't really permit me to go see it, so I had to go early. And I sat there with Danny. He's been on the show before, my best friend, and we were the only ones in the theater. It was completely empty, which is a very rare occurrence. Especially on an opening night of a picture. But we realized that we were seeing it in Realty, and everyone was seeing it in IMAX. Um, and I've been reading on my social network sites that people, they're saying, see it in IMAX. You won't regret it. I just have a rule against seeing films in IMAX if they weren't shot with IMAX cameras. I know I've broken that rule in the past, but for this, I decided to just go with Real D, and I wasn't disappointed. It looked really great. Uh, I was really impressed with how personal this story
Yes.
was,
Yes.
and yeah, I worried because Sandra and George were the only two people in the movie, who were credited, with starring in the movie. They were the only major characters, and it was just about her floating around in space.
Hmm.
What kind of story is that to tell? How is that going to be appealing to a mass audience? And it's not just about her floating around in space. It's 90 minutes of
Which it
pure.
doesn't feel like 90 minutes.
It doesn't. It feels much longer because it's
It wears at the audience.
it does it. It's it's absolutely amazing. I mean, it's 90 minutes of adrenaline,
Yes,
pure
yeah.
adrenaline.
Shit, yeah. I walked out of that film and I just felt like I needed a nap. I was so tired. It, yeah, it's so personal. And I can't give enough credit to Sandra because you have to have a really good actress to keep the audience entertained when it's just pure emotions.
Yeah, technically, it was amazing. From a story standpoint, it was lacking a bit in the story department, and
But that's
that's
okay.
okay because
Yeah.
it makes everything else makes up for that. And another thing that kind of worried me was the running time, which I mentioned was 90 minutes. That's about an hour and 30 minutes.
And what's funny is that there's a debris that rotates around the Earth and it happens every hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah, and that's the whole story. They have to find a way to get to Earth and get out of the path of this debris from a Russian satellite that's been blown up. You wonder how many times that happens in in real life. I'm sure it doesn't happen all that often. Um, it's just something to think about. And movies like this, like I read the draft for Chris Nolan's Interstellar, and that changed my outlook on space travel and wanting to go to space. This is, I don't want to go. I don't want to go to space now. Space is just
Oh god.
death.
I,
Okay.
w- I, w- I was thinking if I was in Sandra's shoes and like went off and I had detached from, my main shuttle and I was just floating in space, I would be crapping myself. Like I was in the seat watching that and I was just like, "Holy crap. Can you imagine if you were in this situation?"
No, because I don't want to. I'm never going to go to space, so I don't have to worry about that. But
You're not going to
I
be part
definitely,
of
I
you're
definitely
not going to
was.
be
I'm sorry.
you're not going to be part of the group that's going to Mars to start a colony?
No, because that's a one-way trip. They're not coming back.
I know that's a one-way to pilgrims.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm not. Yeah, no. I'll if I'll go to space. I'm not gonna like walk. I'm not gonna do like a space walk where I have the potential to be cut off and drift off into. No, fuck that. No, good God. Phew. It's a very scary thought to just
I
be
don't I don't
floating
know if
around up
people
there.
I don't know if people will agree with me when I say this. And again, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the film, you probably shouldn't be watching this. Watching this, I should say, listening to this. I was kind of, it didn't annoy me, and for the story and for what happened, it worked. But I wish, George had some more screen time,
Yeah,
I
I
felt
liked
like
his character.
the way he went out was very nicely done. I just wish he had a little bit more to do. Do you think that this has any chance at all of Oscar contention?
Yeah, I walked out of the theater thinking about that. It could very well be up for best direction,
Hmm.
definitely best acting.
I think for in the visual
Yes,
technical
in the
category,
visual in the technical
I think it.
for score as well. It could very. I like this the
Yes,
score. The score really added that extra sense of suspense and impending danger. Really.
because I'd read a review and they were saying like that there's no space. I mean, not there's not no space. There's no sound, and I was going into this film like, wait, is there not going to really be a soundtrack? And the soundtrack for the film, it was there, but it was subtly done. It wasn't overbearing.
Right. Right. And I really
And
appreciated the fact that they stayed true to the scientific fact that there is no sound in space,
yes, yes,
which made it also much more eerie because you won't hear the debris coming and you won't hear the damage it's doing to the space station. I mean, we saw that one scene where she was there trying to unattach the parachute, and you just saw the debris just coming and it's ripping apart the ISS, and she's has no clue what's happening. I mean, she
yep.
sees it, but she doesn't know the extent of the damage it's doing, and that's just really scary.
I loved and even the way that the letters of gravity were spaced apart. It I had alien vibes, and
I was
especially
gonna
with the
say that,
first.
yeah,
You agree with me the way
yeah,
that the credit card, not the credit card. Jesus Christ, Connor, the title card before the film actually started.
yeah.
You know what? I love
The whole
that.
film just
There
gave me an alien vibe because they're very similar movies in the sense that you
and
know,
speaking of that, James Cameron is like he loved this film. He loves it. He's gone on to say, this is the future of cinema. I wish I had this back when we did Aliens. And what I loved so much was the title card, and they were like, it's blah 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 degrees in space. There's blah blah blah. There's no sound, and it was all these facts, and it just set you up. And I took a deep breath, and I'm like, well, here we go. It sets you up. And go into this film if you're my I went with my mother, and she was worried because of the way it was shot. She was worried that she would get motion sickness, and it turned out to not be an issue. But if you want to go see this film, be prepared because it is not for the lighthearted. There is a lot of stuff that happens. It's very adrenaline. It's an adrenaline rush, and there is a lot of to the normal audience member. There's a lot of quote unquote wacky angles, and it's just not your normal movie the way it's shot from a technical viewpoint. So just go into this film and just prepare to be taken on a ride. I actually turned to my brother like twice during the movie and I whispered, I feel like I'm in a video game right now, you know?
I totally get that. I mean,
I felt like I
so
was
many
like,
POV shots like that,
yeah, it
like
felt
what
like I
you'd see in a
was
video game. And Danny actually turned to me and said the same thing. He's like, "This is like a
really?
video game." Yeah,
Yeah, it felt like I was watching gameplay, but I was in it, like up close. It was really weird,
yeah.
but I liked it. That little things like that, I got to give credit to Alfonso, the way that he shot this film. Technical aside, but just camera angles, I love it. I am definitely going to buy this on DVD. And speaking of, the way you watch it, I know a lot of people, some don't like to go see films, they'll be like, "Oh, I'll wait for it on DVD." This is one of those films that you have to truly enjoy it on a huge screen. It just the visuals, they work so well on a huge IMAX screen.
Did you see it in IMAX?
Yes.
Oh, did it fill the entire screen, or was there black bars?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Were there black bars for you?
No, because I saw it in Real D, so it was just
I didn't really notice any. But then again,
okay.
most of the film was
black because it was in space. No, I don't think there were.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll check it out. Maybe I'll go see it again and see it in IMAX this time.
But going back to the Oscars real quick, yeah, visual in the visual categories, technically, I think it's going to make a killing getting some technical awards because I think it really does deserve it. The way this film was shot was great.
Well, you can see Gravity now playing in 2D, 3D, and IMAX 3D at a theater near you. I highly recommend you seeing it in either Real D or IMAX 3D. It wasn't shot with IMAX cameras, so it might be formatted for letterbox, which you'll have two black boxes on the top and a box on the top and a box on the bottom on the IMAX screen. Or it's been formatted to fill the entire IMAX screen. I'm not sure. I haven't seen it in the format. Usually that's the way it's done with the two black boxes on the top and the bottom, or you just see it in Real D 3D. I don't, that's the way I saw it in Real D. It's no difference either way, really. But you make that decision when you get to the movie theater. Well, that about does it for us here at Cut 2 Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Caleb Hamilton. You can follow me on Twitter at CalebH92 and Connor.
My Twitter is @ConnorFilm.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us, and have a great day.